Be a part of the best pro wrestling podcast today by supporting the Going In Raw Patreon. You can enjoy access to the live taping of the show, exclusive merchandise, and patron-only episodes, and so much more. Support Going In Raw today. Click the link in the description. Hey friendo, Steve here.
And Larson.
And welcome to the Going In Raw Dirt Sheet. That's right, you can find us here at youtube.com/Steve and Larson, at the iTunes, Podbean, Stitcher Radio, Google Play, iHeartPlay, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud.com/Steve and Larson. Oh man.
We're on the Patreon too.
At patreon.com/Steve and Larson. That's
yeah.
right. You got all sorts of reward tiers. You can check out a live screening of the show. Live streaming of the show, every week for $5.
This particular illness that you're battling currently is not treating you very well.
Not conducive to a healthy state of mind. No, it's not, Larson. Oh, no. Anyways, this is the Dirt Sheet. This is where we dig through the various rumors and speculation, gossip in the wrestling world. We sort of dig out the things that we think might be useful and helpful and entertaining to our friendos out there. And we sort of move, we brush off the bullshit that we think might be out there. And that's why we're here today.
Yeah.
Bringing that to you.
Yeah, what you said.
Yeah.
All right, our first story.
Long 48 hours for
Are you ready?
Oh, yeah.
It's been a long, 3 days for us, 72 hours.
Randy Savage is much more fun to do when I've got a stuffed up nose.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's stuffed up nose, cream of the crop. Can you dig it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all good.
Yeah.
First story.
Yeah.
According to Wrestling Observer, the WWE is interested in bringing in some hot young talent from TNA.
Yeah.
Matt Hardy.
Now, Matt Hardy broke onto the scene recently. Had his groundbreaking debut in the Final Deletion.
Yeah.
And now WWE obviously wants him because he's hot shit.
Yeah,
this is really interesting to me, the fact that they'd want to bring back Matt Hardy, assuming that this is based off of his recent work as Broken Matt Hardy, which has been just a wealth of creativity.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been... Regardless of where you stand on the Final Deletion and on this whole storyline, it's interesting to me that the WWE isn't simply looking at Matt Hardy as just sort of doing this reckless abandon thing in the later years of his career, just pure creative freedom to do what he wants to do. They're not looking at that. They're saying, no, this guy's turning a lot of heads with his creative booking, with his creative outlet that TNA has given him, basically, creative freedom.
Yeah.
They're saying... he could be something big here in the WWE. This is fascinating to me.
Yeah.
Because there's such a youth movement going on.
Yes.
It's funny. It's sort of a youth movement with an asterisk. Because when I say youth movement, they're bringing in not only a lot of great young talent from, like in the Cruiserweight division, but they're reaching outside the company for people who are new to the WWE. That's what I mean when I say young. Because a lot of these guys are like in their 30s.
Yeah. They're new. They're young in terms of their WWE careers.
Right, exactly.
But they have
a wealth of experience.
A wealth of experience in the independent circuit, correct?
Yeah. And so Matt Hardy is kind of like, if you sort of take his WWE career out of this, he kind of fits that bill a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, he's at least pushing 40.
Oh, at least. He's
got to be 42,
40,
40, something like that. Yeah, okay. So, I mean, he's not that much older than, say, like an AJ Styles. But what's interesting about this is that type of... I mean, we all know that the Wyatt's New Day Wyatt compound match was sort of a response of sorts.
Inspired by
right.
the Final Deletion.
But then you had other, sort of commingling with, like, Chris Jericho bringing him onto his podcast in character.
Yeah.
And that character has had legs in TNA.
Yes.
We've seen the recent Delete versus Decay match. And we've always sort of thought that Jeff would be the focus of the WWE because he was the one who was the WWE champ.
Yeah.
And he still has a couple good matches left in him. But the fact that it's Matt Hardy based on the Final Deletion storyline
is interesting.
Really interesting. Now, how do you see, like... I was reading up about this a little bit on WrestleZone, and these are sort of obvious points to make, but TNA has obviously given Matt Hardy carte blanche.
Yeah, he
on
seems
what he wants to do.
have total creative freedom in terms of the broken Matt Hardy character and the larger storyline.
And if Matt Hardy's to be believed, Jeremy Borash was the one who directed the Final Deletion. I think he has a heavy hand in a lot of the production of this stuff.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting if he was part of like a package deal
to
bring him over. I mean, that's not out of the question.
Yeah. One interesting point, I don't know if it was brought up just by WrestleZone or by Wrestling Observer, was the travel schedule. TNA, they shoot predominantly in Orlando, and I think they do house shows. They used to. I don't know if they still do.
Yeah, I don't know.
So the travel obligations, the schedule is nowhere near as hectic as what the WWE.
And if you think
for a guy like Matt Hardy, who has been in the industry for a long time, I can see the appeal of the combination of creative control, complete creative control, and not having to worry about being on the road 250, 300 days a year, why that would be appealing.
And if you think about the final deletion, he gets to do so much just literally from home.
Yeah.
Like a lot of that stuff is shot at his, compound, basically.
Somewhere in North Carolina.
Yeah, North Carolina, that's right. And so he gets to, like you said, have full creative control. He's got his wife involved in it. Senor Benjamin is his father-in-law.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I read that today on one of these things. I'm pretty sure that's true. It'd be weird if they lied about that. And, he gets to do whatever he wants with his brother. I'm sure Jeff Hardy finds it a very comfortable situation, although he has said that he wants to come back to WWE and face The Undertaker at WrestleMania. That might not be as far-fetched as it once seemed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because The Undertaker and Matt Hardy go back pretty far. That's a possibility. If Undertaker's like, well, there's nobody else really in the WWE that I really want to face or am interested, Jeff Hardy, that's a big name to face The Undertaker. To me, that's a bigger name than
Imagine a storyline between Broken Matt Hardy, Brother Nero, and The Undertaker.
Do you think they would go down that route? Because that might be, like, in The Undertaker's eyes, that might be a bit on the goofy side. I would love it.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Love it. Because wrestling's supposed to be fun.
Undertaker could kind of no-sell that, too. Goofiness of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It could be interesting. It could be a different dynamic.
Yeah. There's a million ways they can go with that. So this remains to be seen. But I love that the WWE, they have enough outlets between Raw, SmackDown. I mean, can you imagine? Like, SmackDown, we've acknowledged is like it's the more entertaining show.
Yeah.
Partially because they're more willing to take risks.
Yes.
They can be goofier.
Yes.
And this makes me wonder, somebody tweeted it at Wrestling Observer, at Dave Meltzer, just recently, I think yesterday or 2 days ago. And there was the idea out there that was being floated out there that McMahon has sort of had a hands-off approach on SmackDown and is heavier on Raw. And Meltzer said, no, not the case.
Yeah.
He's equal. It makes me wonder if McMahon is saying sort of, okay, well, this is the serious wrestling promotion, Raw. And here's the one that we can do more interesting things with on SmackDown.
Well, I don't know if it's so much the serious versus interesting. I think Raw is the more conservative show.
Yeah.
Whereas SmackDown is the more unpredictable show.
Well, the traditional versus unpredictable.
Yeah.
And so it wouldn't surprise me if you wanted to bring in, talk about a low-risk way of trying to bring a lot of attention to SmackDown.
Yep.
Because tell me everybody wouldn't be looking at SmackDown at that point.
I know.
Everybody would be.
know.
And they could have more fun with it than they could have had before the brand split. So there's a million reasons why this could be really, really good. Like you said, there's the travel. They would have to make allowances, I would imagine, for the travel schedule.
I don't know if he would be on a full travel schedule, including house shows, or if he'd just do TV. Or
if it was something that he would understand would be for 1 year, like the Dudleys.
Yeah.
They did it for 1 year. What if he said, you know what, I understand that this type of thing that I'm doing has a shelf life.
Yeah.
What if we booked a really great year?
Yeah.
And then either call the day or see how I felt.
Yeah.
But we'll just go from there.
Yeah.
There's in this day and age, the great thing about having TNA around and New Japan and all these great promotions springing up, and just the indie circuit in general, these guys can make. Matt and Jeff still go on the indie circuit. They still make a bunch of money doing that.
Yeah.
Because all this is out there, those wrestlers have a bit more leverage to say, all right, but I want creative control over this, or I want X number of days that. Mm-hmm. And the WWE, are willing to oblige. We've seen this with things like the names.
Yeah.
AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, Bobby Roode coming in with their names.
Yeah.
So, I love this in your notes. Let me see this. Is this a good idea, great idea, or the best idea? I'm going to circle with my silver pen. Best idea.
Best idea.
Top idea. All right. Next up, Jericho confirming his confrontation post SummerSlam with Brock Lesnar.
Correct. Jericho was on Chael Sonnen's podcast where he confirmed that he and Brock did in fact have an altercation following Lesnar's match with Randy Orton at SummerSlam. Let me pull up the quotes here.
I read, he said basically he was concerned with his friend laying, in a pool of his own blood.
Yeah.
Expressed concern They got in each other's faces.
This is what he said.
Go ahead.
He said, I thought the finish of the match was very brutal and very violent, and I just didn't know if Randy was okay. I said something, and he, Lesnar, said something. Next thing you know, we're nose to nose, kind of yelling at each other, and it diffused fairly quickly. Brock is a trained fighter, and he's a beast, but I'm not the type of person to back down from anybody. He continues, when I see a friend of mine laying in a pool of his own blood, whether it's a work or not, that's real blood. That's a real concussion he suffered. So I want to go check and see if he's okay.
I love that he's just straight up shooting on this, saying this is how it happened. Yep. I love how Chris Jericho is he's so nonchalant about doing something very ballsy.
Yeah.
Because Brock, like he said, trained fighter, and he is a beast of a human being.
Yes.
And Jericho is probably shorter than me, probably around your height.
I think he's around 5'10", yeah.
Think so, yeah. And but hey, he's got the stones to not back down. I mean,
and that's awesome.
That is awesome. And you gotta to be a fly on the wall, and specifically sort of looking at Randy Orton in that situation, who's a veteran.
Yeah.
And he had to be at least a little tickled that Jericho would want to have his back on that.
Yeah.
His part-timer coming in.
Yeah.
And leave him, with a concussion and bleeding, which was completely unnecessary.
Yeah.
And if I recall correctly, that left the SummerSlam crowd leaving in just sort of
it was underwhelming.
It was an underwhelming mood. It was like, oh, he's fucked up. Okay, we're gonna go now.
Yeah.
That's how it was. It wasn't like the high of like the AJ Styles,
especially
John Cena.
Yeah, especially considering the build of that match. The way it was booked. We all knew Randy Orton was going to win.
Right.
But at the very least, we were hoping for a competitive match.
Yeah, and Orton thought it was going to be that going into it.
Yeah.
Then finally in the news, our good friend Ryan Allen Reeves.
No.
Ryback Allen Reeves.
Correct.
That's now his legal name.
Yep.
He was able to change it legally.
Yep.
He got it approved. Clark County. Where is Clark County?
It's Las Vegas area.
Oh, okay, that's right. He's in Vegas. That's right. So now if you're gonna call him anything, Ryback Allen Reeves.
So he did it.
Opens the door.
Last week we talked about him trying to do it, but now it's official.
Yeah, he did it. He
did it.
Ryback seems like he's a goal-oriented fella. He accomplishes his goals. There's some inspiration to be had there, Larson.
Yeah, I guess feed me more. Our inspirational words.
It's a way of life.
Apparently.
And he's got a deal with El Pollo Loco. Can you imagine if we scored a deal with Del Taco? That's kind of my biggest goal.
Okay.
Right now.
Okay.
And I'm inspired by Ryback. Feed me more Del Taco. I'm gonna make that happen.
Well, I think we need our own inspirational phrase.
Feed me even more.
Food in my belly.
I need food in my belly box.
Yeah, belly box is broken.
I like that a lot. There was an NXT that happened, Larson, so we're going
Correct.
to talk about that. Happily,
Yes.
It was a packed episode. They're doing a really good job balancing out developmental aspects of NXT with the veterans of NXT.
Yeah, they're advancing storylines amongst their developmental talent, while also simultaneously advancing storylines amongst their veterans.
Right.
Pretty much repeated what you just said, but just toss
With
in
more
some
flair there.
fancier words.
That's okay. I like it. I like your verbiage. Let's see here. We had Samoa Joe comes out, delivers a promo.
Great.
Oh, it's great. Anytime somebody says, crap, what was the word that he used?
He was
Virtuous. When anybody uses the word
okay.
because he said virtuous man.
Yeah.
Somewhere in his
Oh, yeah, he
promo,
said, I'm not a virtuous man.
I'm not a virtuous man.
Well, then
Anytime somebody says a virtuous, I love that word.
He got a copy, allegedly, of Shinsuke's medical report.
Which Regal didn't know where he got it from.
And he was talking about the various contusions and whatnot in his body. And then he said something about his clavicle being separated. But there was a term before clavicle. I can't repeat it just because I don't know how to.
Yeah.
But he did it effortlessly.
Oh, I know.
He said like he was a doctor himself.
So much money.
It was so good.
It's so great.
good.
So Regal comes down and says, Samoa Joe, I don't know where you received that list of Shinsuke Nakamura's injuries, but we'll talk about that at a later date. But for now, and then Samoa Joe's like, okay, screw you, Regal. He's like,
Well,
and then he goes up to him.
Regal said, I can't control that, but I can control what happens at NXT. He can control what happens with Shinsuke. He can control what happens to Joe right now.
Right.
And then Joe was like, hold on.
Yeah.
I'm Samoa Joe. And he
Yeah.
goes down there and gives Regal the business.
Yeah, he gives him the business, and he walks off. So more intrigue there in the Samoa Joe scenario. I love all this. I love, NXT obviously follows that pattern of drop the belt, move on to main, but they do it in a different, interesting way every single time.
Yeah.
And I love that about it.
Yeah.
Cedric Alexander delivered a promo, which was very tweener. It was like, I'm here to show everybody what I can do. It wasn't smiling baby face, hey, I'm happy to be here. No, it was, I've been doing this for 7 long years, and now I'm here to prove my point, to prove who I am. And Larson, I told you this off camera. I told you this right afterwards. I said, that promo right there, that was more character than Apollo Crews has shown in his entire run in the WWE so far. And that's the difference. You show some complexity. You don't just say, I'm happy to be here. Show some complexity of character, not only in the matches, but in your promos. And there was no gimmick there.
No.
There was no, like, you didn't need some form of profession, or there was no gimmick there.
Yeah.
It was just a guy stating letting you know his state of mind.
But there was layers to it.
Yeah, exactly. In one promo, he did that.
Cedric Alexander is going to be a huge star.
Huge. He's going to be huge.
Yeah.
Let's see here. We had a Liv Morgan interview,
which was a pretty significant improvement over her promo last week.
Makes me wonder if being in the backstage setting is... Well, listen, I don't have to wonder about this. If you're in front of a couple thousand people...
After a match, too.
After a match. That's got to be a bit more intimidating and sort of difficult to pull off than just being in a backstage thing. But basically, she reiterated, she's like, you know what, Asuka says she cleaned out the women's division, but I'm right here. Asuka shows up and says, prove yourself. She doesn't do it. Let's see here. The best name in the business, Oni Lorcan.
It's a good name.
Took on Austin Aries, the greatest man who ever lived.
Good match.
Good match, yeah, good match. They let this match breathe a little bit.
Austin's potassium levels must have been good because he won.
He got the win. And once again, Hideo Itami comes out.
Yep.
Austin Aries takes off. And yeah, so that's going to be, I'm really looking forward. They've built this pretty well in the time that NXT allows to build up matches like this, and especially in their mid-card.
Assuming they're building up to a match at TakeOver, they still have a month and a half.
It makes, I mean, this seems destined for a TakeOver, which, like you said, that's plenty of time left. We had a great, I love whenever they do shit in the parking lot.
I know.
I can never get enough of parking lot brawls. That's what 2K needs to go next. So they've got the backstage brawl.
Yeah.
I want the parking lot brawl. Gargano and Ciampa had an interview post-match from last week. And,
after their match at the Cruiserweight Classic.
Right. And so they were talking in the parking lot, telling, or they were doing an interview, what to expect from them. The Revival comes up. One of them, and I still don't know. I'll learn which one's which. But one of them was wearing like the Revival shirt, fist not flips.
Dash Wilder is the one without a mustache. Scott Dawson is the one with a mustache.
Dawson's the bald one then?
Yeah.
Okay, so Dawson was wearing a modified half shirt. Like it was a low shirt. It wasn't a half shirt, but it was like a 5/6, 3/4 shirt.
Yeah, no sleeves.
No sleeves, and his belly was, he didn't have a belly, but his midsection was sort of there, for the taking.
Yeah.
Anyways, they got into a fight. You can tell people are like, oh, don't mess up the rental car.
Yeah.
Somebody got thrown on a rental car.
Yeah, Wilder got thrown on the hood of the rental car.
And then it was broken up by a guy who looked like a giant version of Usher.
And some executive.
Who looked so sweaty, like way too sweaty for what they were doing at the time.
Yeah.
But I want to know who Giant Usher is. To me, he looks like Usher, and he looks like a giant. I don't know who that is. Maybe I should know who it is. Maybe he's a recent signee. Probably is. I don't know. I want to know who Giant Usher is, and that should be his name. Then we had Aaliyah versus Billie Kay. Aaliyah has such a great look to her.
Yeah.
She has so much charisma in her face.
Yeah.
I love that. She's going to be big if she can wrestle.
Yeah. Billie Kay picked up the win. They're booking her as kind of the next heel, it seems like, in the women's division.
Seems to be the case. You see Billie Kay versus Asuka at
TakeOver?
Yeah.
Potentially.
Maybe.
I feel like they need to make Billie Kay more threatening.
I agree with that. They can achieve that through promos, maybe a bit more aggressive behavior.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's honestly, I'll be honest with you. She seems like a blue version of Eva Marie. But she's a much better wrestler.
Yeah.
She's an actual wrestler.
Yeah.
Which might not be bad, but I'm not sure if it's great.
Yeah.
So, more character.
Yes.
Then we had the actual Cedric Alexander.
Well, I got these out of order. There's a Mandy Rose interview.
Oh, that happened next? Okay.
The Mandy Rose interview wasn't the main event.
No, it wasn't. And it needs a lot of work.
Who was she talking about? Oh, Ember Moon. That's right.
She was talking about Ember Moon, who's going to absolutely destroy her, Yeah. Mandy Rose firmly in the level of developmental.
Yes.
Was she a contest winner? Was that her deal?
She was on one of the Tough Enoughs.
She was in one of the. She didn't win one of the Tough Enoughs. When are they going to debut the fella from Tough Enough? He was a good-looking dude.
Yeah,
he had a good look to him.
Yeah, he did.
And
I don't know.
Yeah, she called that Ember Moon out. Ember Moon's going to destroy her.
Yeah.
Cedric Alexander versus Andrade Cien Almas.
Good match.
Man, is Andrade talking to Alberto saying, "Why did you have to tell him that I wasn't happy here? What's wrong with that, Pedro? Right now I can't talk. I'm in motherfucking Newcastle." I love that. Alberto gave a great promo in WCPW when he says motherfucking Newcastle. Anyways, he took on Cedric Alexander. Really, really good match between these two guys. Yeah. Really good guys in the ring.
I do appreciate that Andrade is showing off more of his ability match after match.
Yeah.
Like his first match against Ty Dillinger, it seemed like he was only showing off about 30% of what he can actually do.
Yeah.
And it seems each subsequent match, he's showing off more of his repertoire. He's good.
I wonder if they just think that they can pull the trigger on this guy anytime and start giving him wins, because he's such a well put together package of a wrestler. You know what I mean? Like, he looks great, regardless of Alberto saying he looks fat for WWE standards. I don't think that's true. I think he looks great. You just said he's got a broad chest.
Yeah.
And he's got like a commensurately, his chest is, or his midsection is normal as opposed to being abnormally small.
Yeah.
So I can see where Alberto's coming from in saying that, but I think he looks great.
Yeah, he looks fantastic.
But he's taking these losses one after the other.
Yeah.
Just one after the other. No Way Jose's probably got a better record than this guy. Almost definitely, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think Andrade Almas is a great looking guy, and he's got
tons of talent.
I don't know why they're jobbing him out so much.
I don't know either.
I mean, he makes other guys look really good. Maybe that's the reason. You know,
could be.
I don't know. I mean, they jobbed Ty Dillinger out plenty.
Yeah.
And he's still Ty Dillinger.
Yeah, people love him.
Yeah. I mean, maybe Almas will take on. We'll get a win over Lorcan next week.
Yeah, that could be.
Kind of needs a win.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah. Anyways, it was a really good match, though. Cedric Alexander's, like you said, going to be a huge star.
Yeah, he is. He's going to be an enormous star.
Yeah. So because we weren't able to take video questions because of our trip for the last Going in Raw, we're going to take a couple of video questions right now.
Correct.
Lovely patron at $20 a month, Patreon level. You can do that. Just put in your $20 of the Patreon and then send your video question to StephenLarson@gmail.com or post a Dropbox link on the Patreon wall.
Or some people send us YouTube links too.
Or send us YouTube links. Yeah, whatever you want to do.
All right, first video question from Patrick Sparks.
The friendo, Patrick Sparks. What does he have to say?
Hey friendos, Pat here. So today I don't really have a question, but I have more of a challenge. What I'd like you to do is, without saying their name, try to describe your favorite early 2000s wrestler using only their finisher, their best match, in your opinion, and their best known gimmick. See if you can figure mine out. He used unorthodox, unfair ways to proceed through life. That one kid in that video liked turtles. Well, this guy likes frogs. And his best match, in my opinion, was from a pretty decent pay-per-view in 2004. What's your guys's?
This is an interesting challenge.
Okay, so we're supposed to describe our favorite early 2000s wrestler.
And he gave an example, as we saw, where, for example, he didn't say the name of the finisher or the name of the event where they had their best match.
Okay.
He alluded to it.
Okay.
So we have to allude.
Okay. Good.
Okay. I got one.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. He is a principled man.
He's a man.
A principled man.
Such a man.
His finisher is inspired by his achievements, and his best match took place. Sorry, in his best
Kurt
match.
Angle.
Yeah.
Okay. He's here we go. No nonsense. One name, I'm trying to think. Debilitating. And for his finisher, it's debilitating.
Okay.
Or handicapping, another way of putting it, I think.
Chris Benoit.
There you go. And his best match, I don't know. What was the best match?
It's the triple threat against HBK and
I would think so,
Triple H.
Yeah, I would think so too. Yeah. Interesting challenge there, Patrick Sparks.
Yeah, it was good.
Next up from Vincent Palmieri. Let's see what Vincent has to say.
Hey, friendos. I appreciate that you guys liked my question so much last time, so I'm coming with you with another one. This one's a little bit shorter. It's in the same kind of wheelhouse as the last one. So, a lot of people talk about what is and isn't good about wrestling, like different styles and different, like, moves and how things should be done, and that's all subjective. Like, it's fun, it's great, and it's art regardless of what the person in the ring is doing. If they're doing it and they're enjoying themselves and we're enjoying it, then everything is fine. But there is a question about business, and specifically pertaining to, like, pop. Now, you can argue that if a wrestler's drawing, pop shouldn't matter, but a lot of people seem to disagree with that, especially nowadays. You guys hear Kevin Nash and Scott Hall talk all the time about how who drew and who didn't, and who got pay-per-view buys and who didn't, and who sold merch and who didn't, and it's a whole thing, and that's the business side. But then you've got guys that don't seem to draw, but get huge pops. Like, Seth Rollins is a prime example. He sells merch, sure, but he's not selling as much as John Cena, and he's not selling as much as, like, CM Punk during the Summer of Punk, or Daniel Bryan during the Yes Movement, but he's still getting these huge pops. So I'm asking you guys, what do you think is more important, and what do you think a wrestler should strive to be better at? Getting pops and getting the audience to, like, jump out of their seats and stand up and cheer for them, or drawing money for the company? And more importantly than that, do you think the company should base decisions on champions and storylines and who wins and who loses based on pop or draw? Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Vincent. Really good question.
Yeah.
This is a really good question.
I would think in a perfect world, getting pops would inevitably lead to drawing money.
Yeah.
Because as a wrestler becomes more popular, getting larger pops. In theory, he should sell more merch. And I don't, like, these days, like, buy rates and stuff, I mean, that's irrelevant because most people probably watch pay-per-views on the network.
Right, exactly.
So I think selling merch and house show numbers, if we're talking drawing money, are probably the two primary metrics.
Right.
But you would think, as a wrestler became more popular, drawing or getting more pops, he would start selling more merch.
Right.
People want to go see him.
One happens over the other. But
You
if
would
I'm a
think.
wrestler coming in the WWE...
Yeah, what are you going to focus your attention towards?
Well, if, like you said, most people watch things on the pay-per-views on the network now.
Yeah.
I would think because that's their main attraction. I mean, seriously, I would think as a wrestler, your main goal would be to put on the best matches.
Yeah.
Who's my favorite wrestler right now?
AJ Styles.
Okay, and he's in your top 3. Okay. He's a guy who puts on the best matches.
Yeah.
Not only are his matches the best, his opponent, it's their best match. Those are going to get the biggest pops. Those are going to draw the most money. If you're basing that on, you got to sign up the network. You got to sign up for the network to watch this AJ Styles match.
Yeah.
So, in my opinion, wrestlers should aim to be like him. Try to make the other guy, pride yourself on making the other guy look good. And everything else, I think, will come into play later. Now, the second part of this question, should WWE base decisions on the pops wrestlers get or their ability to draw? I think
not exclusively. Because, I mean, if predominantly, nowadays is a little different. Historically speaking, though, baby faces got the pops. And baby faces, historically, were the ones who drew more money.
Now, I think the
But for storyline purposes, you need heels, and on occasion, you need heel champions.
Yeah.
Because if you get a quality heel champion and you push a quality babyface against them, if you do it right, it'll make the babyface even more over, more pops, more merch sales, better attendance.
I think they are basing their decisions on the ability to draw.
Yeah.
Because we've seen this with the house shows when Roman was champ.
That was one of the things they said, but that was before the suspension.
That was before the suspension, but it seemed like they were basing decisions based on drawing power. They make decisions based on ratings. We know that for a fact, and that's kind of a way of drawing.
Yeah.
Should they base them on the pops? It depends because, okay, you take a look at somebody like...
Well, look at the Daniel Bryan situation.
Okay, you look at the Daniel Bryan situation, but then contrast that against the Fandango situation, where the crowd, for a spell, was eating up his dance routine thing, but that wasn't really indicative of the level of wrestler he was or is.
Yeah.
With Daniel Bryan, there seemed to be some, and they came around to it, but there seemed to be some legitimate confusion over whether or not the audience was simply doing yes because they like doing yes, or because they were connecting with Daniel Bryan, and they understood before WrestleMania 30 that they were connecting with him.
Yeah.
But I think there was a concern early on, and I think he's even said this, I read it somewhere, that they felt...
The yes chant was over, not him. Yeah.
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 So I think they do factor in the
they
pops.
have to, yeah.
I mean, they just look at the price. They see who are the fans responding to.
Yeah. Who are the fans responding to, who is putting butts in seats and selling shirts.
Yeah. Now, the interesting thing
and how that they can use that for storyline purposes. The
interesting thing about that is that both Damian Sandow and Cody Rhodes, after they were both gone from the company, have both said that the WWE is considered by creative Triple H, Stephanie, as a play, and everybody has their role. And even if Damian Sandow's getting these huge pops, they're not going to then push him.
Yeah. Well, the thing about that analogy that is made is when people are actors, they don't just say, "Okay, well, I'm gonna settle and only audition for these same supporting parts in every play I audition for."
Right.
Eventually, either they have a standout performance,
Yeah.
someone takes notice and casts them in a larger role,
Yeah.
or they start saying, "Okay, well, I think I've proved myself. I want to try to audition for larger roles."
Or they just get booked in the same actors getting booked. They get booked in more prestigious plays, if you will, or more movies or whatever, in those supporting roles, and they make it. You always see like supporting actors, getting those Oscars, and then they'll go on to, sometimes they'll go on to lead roles, but they're best in supporting roles.
Yeah. No, I know, but it's to look at Damian Sandow and say, okay, regardless of how you connect with the audience, regardless of how many shirts you may sell, regardless of how large of a pop you get, we see you as this role, and that's going to be your role.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
It can't be that simple.
Do you think? Oh, let me ask you this: are you saying,
or it can't be like WWE management shouldn't view things that simply? That's what I'm trying to say.
Are you saying WWE management doesn't, or that's not what they should be doing?
That's not what they should do. They shouldn't say, okay, Damian Sandow, you're going to be a mid-card guy. Yeah. That's it.
But we also don't know the internal machinations.
Absolutely not.
So we don't know if what they're saying is true. I kind of believe that that's probably the case, but I would think that there's more wiggle room than the way they're portraying it.
Yes, I would think so,
I would think
too.
like if Damian Sandow was putting on the best matches and really getting over in a way that's solid and not a gimmicky way, because I love Damian Sandow, and I thought that they really did miss a big opportunity with him.
Yeah.
But I can also understand how maybe they'd want to. I don't know. I could kind of see it both ways. How they'd want.
I can
to keep
see
it
with the
certain
Sandow
role.
situation, specifically with the Mizdow situation, they can look at that and see. All right, he got over as a comedy gimmick thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any staying power beyond the breakup.
Right.
Granted, how they handled things after the breakup was horrible.
Yeah, and
they gave him zero chance.
Yeah, and even before, when he was a heel, I think they missed out on a huge.
Oh, when he was the intellectual savior, he was great.
Yeah, but we don't know what kind of. Again, a lot of wrestling is politics. They're not always going to do things the way they should be done because there's a lot of politics involved. So yeah, really good question. Thank you very much, guys. We appreciate the video questions. We always love those. So yeah, that's it for now for the Dirt Sheet. And tomorrow we've got a really good list. Or I'm sorry, tomorrow we got some interviews with AJ Styles and Sasha Banks.
Correct.
From our 2K17 excursion yesterday.
Yeah, that was fun.
So that was a lot of fun. And Sunday we've got a top 10 list, top 10 best championship title matches.
Correct.
You'll be surprised by some of our choices, probably.
And then Monday we have Clash Champions recap.
That's right.
Episode
That's
of Going
right,
in Raw. Busy week.
Busy week. Be sure to check it all out. Till next time, we'll talk to you guys later.
Bye.